Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Vermont's guest speaker series during Hour of Code Week. This week, we are very honored to have as a guest speaker, Sarah Roman. Did I say your name right, Sarah?
Oh, it's Roman, yeah.
Roman, okay. And her class from New Jersey, and Carly Revard and Charlie McFadden in his class from Vermont. And they're going to be sharing with you some ways that they use code in their classroom. And I'm going to let both Sarah, Charlie, and Carly introduce their classes.
I guess I'll step in and go first. Currently, right now, you're looking at one of my AP Lit courses. However, I did invite students who had me for Junior Honors British Literature last year to come in and speak to any of the projects that we've done, just in order to kind of, I guess, bolster what we're talking about today. So we have a mix here of students ranging from 16, 17.
All right, so I'm Charlie McFadden, and you see Carly here.
Carly Revard.
This is our computer programming class at CVU. We just finished a unit where we learned all about Google scripting, and we use that to solve actual problems. And we're now learning some Java code, but we're really interested to see what you guys are working on at your school.
And I was excited to meet Sarah at Raspberry Pi Academy, and was particularly excited in the fact that she pairs literacy with devices. That was her pun, not mine. And she'll tell you a little bit more about that and how she uses microcomputers and microcontrollers with her English classes.
All right.
Sure. Just to touch upon a little bit, we've used it in a variety of ways. The first time that we had engaged in that was 3 years ago. We used the Raspberry Pi with Scratch and touchscreen computer in order to develop basically a video game from the ground up based on Dracula. So the students were relegated to finding a lot of code evidence, things like syntax, imagery, in order to support their game design choices. And then they were able to build their game essentially in console that they based off the text as well. So for Dracula, of course, we saw a lot of graves, stats, shit, things like that. We've also engaged in like last year we built a telescope in 1984. So that used motion sensors, LEDs, and also an OLED screen in order to kind of recreate Winston, I guess, trials and tribulations over that time. So that was pretty interesting. Right now, well, actually, and also last year, I do have some students who be able to speak to this. We use Raspberry Pi with the SenseApp module in order to do competitive where students and then barometer, so basically the baseball, I guess, coding Python that they have on their examples. We changed that in order to create random tasks and would pop up the scenes and line numbers and pass it around. And then our kind of
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to get closer to the mic because you're cutting in and out? We're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's better. Sorry. So did you want me to start again anywhere?
Maybe at the SenseApp.
Oh, sure. For the Macbeth game, what we had done was we compiled quotes basically from Act 1 of Macbeth. So really I was forcing the students to parse out and consider what smaller sentences and words meant as opposed to like the longer passages and soliloquies. No group could have the same set of quotes, so it made it particularly challenging, especially within such a finite space. But then they had to input their scenes and line numbers into the program. They were also designating us almost about 50-50, a little less, because you do want it to be comprehensive towards the text. These random tasks then that the groups could earn points as they competed with their knowledge about it. and so forth.
Oh, there's a-
I guess just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here was, and I don't have the full program up and running, but let's see. Oh,
we do a screen share.
say it again.
Do a screen share? Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have it set up to the Pi itself, if you want me to show that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense? Okay, let me, I just have to change out. But,
And then she'll come to you if she ever.
oh, okay, great. So, can you see what I'm holding here? Can you see the LEDs on the screen?
Yeah.
Need to be closer?
Yeah, we can't really see what's on the screen.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to boot it up again and then start the program so you can take a look. But it was pretty interesting. It was super fun, especially getting a chance to kind of engage with the Sense Hat. And you know, it's nice because you can work that for any book if you want to do almost like a competitive test review. That would be something to consider. Also, I feel like the Sense Hat has a great wide variety of features. I mean, granted that it does have like the temperature, the gyroscopics, the accelerometer. It really has the ability to function as a great data logger. So another project that hopefully we get to, last year we had kind of run out of time given the rigor of the course, but with As I Lay Dying, essentially you can turn the Raspberry Pi into like that fundamental health class baby, one that like monitors your progress. However, for this, not to give anything away, but in the course of the text, you have the main characters carrying an object. So what I would want my students to do is basically manipulate the object as they see fit throughout their reading, and I would be able to correlate the data from the Sense Hat to their understanding of how the object interacted with the characters and its own, I guess, physical participation in that text, which, you know, in itself, and given Faulkner, pretty interesting when you kind of talk about subtext and actually having characters burdened by an object and then having my students burdened by an object. So right here, I have the Raspberry Pi attached to the Sense Hat. The Sense Hat is here on top. If you can see this LED matrix, that's what we're going to end up focusing on. So like I said, this encourages the use of the accelerometer. And what's great is that the code is essentially pre-made for you, and you can take it off of the Raspberry Pi website. This way, if your students are lacking some of the necessary coding skills and you'd want the project to move a little bit more quickly, really what they're doing is just inputting their scenes and line numbers. So it's no different than them typing in for like homework or something along those lines. But if I were to run this now then,
Yeah.
so what we have, it's scrolling across the screen in blue. Let's begin Act 1. So that's kind of the beginning, like it's starting. You know, I know that it's going to boot up. What I've done in the past is I have attached the Pi to a portable battery. That way the students can pass it around the room as opposed to being stuck to all these wires here. That wouldn't make it very, that sense. So I had it set to run on boot so I could just plug the Pi in and then it would go into the program. but when you shake it, and I only had to shake it slightly, it'll bring up the scene and line number that I would want my group that was up at that time to discuss. And then this one had a random task. This one is if you chicken dance, you get like 2 points or something like that. But the tasks can be whatever. You know, it's whatever best fits your classroom and things like that. So pretty neat. Actually, who am I going to put on the slot here? Alex or Christine? You want to talk for a sec?
What are we talking?
The sense hat with the Macbeth game?
The shaking.
Yeah. You want to talk about how it impacted your learning? Yeah? Okay. Alex here is just going to talk about it, and then I'll have Christine come up and talk about it. I think they remember the project pretty well, so I thought it might be interesting to have a little student input.
Am I taking the seat?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you explained at all, like what actually the purpose of, or how we played?
Well, why don't you talk about your view of the purpose?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean the purpose. So basically what we did is we took the pie and Miss Roman had it formatted so we would shake it, and as you shook it, certain text lines that we inputted into the pie as groups would come up, and you basically had to deeply analyze the text, and if your analysis wasn't either deep enough or even close, you wouldn't get points. And so what that gave us is the ability to deeply analyze text in a scenario where you were on the spot. So you had to do it quickly as well. And so you really had to take the text and go through it and figure out what was really being said and not what was just on the surface. And that's basically, that's what I got from it for the most part.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah.
So along the same lines as Alex, I got the same thing out of it. Macbeth was not too hard to understand, but it wasn't extremely like deep Shakespearean things that we cannot understand. But playing the game, we were very competitive. My class last year was insanely competitive. So if we didn't get anything right, we could steal it, and shaking got very vicious. But it helped us understand. It helped us understand the play and everything much better, and it was a better learning experience than just having her talk a lot. It was better to just do it ourselves, I guess.
Okay, great. So
Sarah,
yes,
do you do all the coding, or do some of your students work with some of the coding?
it depends on the class and what students want to do. So I always kind of leave it open to them. If and this class in particular, I feel like with our next project coming up, they're going to be really reaching far with the coding. Because I saw the same example of this kind of happen with, we had done in AP last year, a text adventure based on King Lear, but it was in the same model of Zork, the game from like 1982. Something to look up if you're ever interested. But you know, since that was in Python, the students had ability to add a lot more bells and whistles to kind of like the standard template I had for them. So it's interesting because each of the loops then we relegated to things like Shakespearean tragic elements, certain ideas of the future, particularly because that text has a soothsayer in it. You know, the fact that the characters have to wander around a heath. And then we could also kind of dabble with like anachronisms. I know that some students had like King Lear pull out a cell phone, but it was interesting because then you're interacting on like a cell phone level within the text adventure. So kind of funny in different ways. But with our newest project, what we're doing, and if you haven't seen it, I would suggest Googling it. Microsoft had put out a version of this using the Raspberry Pi. Of course, theirs is much nicer than whatever we'll, but it's called a magic mirror. So basically, it's a mirror placed over top of like an old monitor or something like that. But then you have modules that are relegated to like time, weather, email notifications, calendar, and things like that. But essentially what we want to do since we're in an independent research project is have the students basically mutate these modules to fit their books and the characters within the books. So say, for instance, in Lord of the Flies, what would Ralph want to see when he's looking at his like bathroom mirror display? That kind of makes sense.
How long does it take the students to learn enough code to be able to do this, since this is not a computer programming class?
We have ups and downs. Usually I'll have team captains. For instance, I could see most of my boys up front, Nick over there. They're going to be able to help extensively because they are very interested in the computer sciences. On the other end, usually I craft the projects where if students are struggling with the coding, we can then kind of revert back to templates in order to help them out, or I'll help them out. So I would say, yeah. Yeah, and then Alex here is just reminding me, like, they had coded the Macbeth project themselves. So I think it kind of depends on what level the class is at. But again, it's always an interesting way to incorporate aspects of grammar, the rigidity of sentence structure, and understanding word choice. Of course, always being able to proofread and make sure you know that things are correct ahead of time before you submit it, and kind of follow through with it.
Great. Maybe you can share those links a little bit later with me, and I can add them to our website.
Yeah.
Especially the Mira one sounds really cool. We only have about 10 minutes left. I also want to see if Carly and Charlie's class have any questions or want to share some of what they're doing.
Sure.
Does anybody want to someone who You're being a little quiet.
I see that. At the beginning, you were telling us a little bit about a project you had just finished, Charlie.
Yeah, so we work in we learn some JavaScript, and then you're able to go into all the Google apps and write scripts that automate things. And I'm trying to get somebody to talk up here. Nobody wants to talk about it? Thomas Deli, what you do?
My group made like sports cancellation service. So like a coach could use Google Form to send a message to all the athletes and parents on their team. So like the parents of the athletes.
And it was just automated. The coach would fill in the information, and it would automatically trigger emails and update calendars and all that kind of stuff. If you guys aren't aware, all that. If you guys are at Google Apps School, are you at Google Apps School?
I'm sorry.
Are you Google Apps? Google Suite?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah. So you can automate all those tasks, and so that's an example. What was another one people did?
We made a absent service thing. So you fill out a form when you're going to be absent, and it sends it to all the teachers, telling them that you're going to be missing their class, and then telling them what day it's going to be, and they can reply and tell you the work you need.
Yeah. Natalie, what do you guys think?
We made a script that crap.
Let Natalie say it. Good.
Oh yeah.
Good. Oh yeah, for field trips, right? Yeah. So these are all tasks that normally you'd have to create a document and then a separate calendar event and then send an email, and all these things can be scripted. So it's kind of very useful if you guys are interested at all in learning about it. Just learn some JavaScript, and all the references there. If you just looked, just Google scripts, and you can do all kinds of fun things and create add-ons that become part of your Google apps. So yeah, that's our most recent thing, and now we're learning to do some Java. So
I noticed that Google just released a new app maker. Have you guys had a chance to look at that yet?
I just signed up for the whatever it is, the beta. I had just started playing with it. We haven't looked at it as a class, no. Well, we will.
Well, you said that you're learning JavaScript. On Wednesday, we have a guest speaker from VidCode, VIDCODE, and that is a very interesting platform for learning JavaScript. You might want to take a look at that also.
All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
So it is just really my pleasure to be able to at least bring you guys together and introduce you guys to each other. kind of share some of the coding that's happening in our school, both in a computer programming class, like this group in Vermont, and who are doing some things outside just your traditional programming text by developing real-life applications with Google, and also to just have Sarah share how her students are learning to code in a very non-traditional class for coding, and that is in high school literature classes. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to share that with us. I know we have a couple other people who are interested in learning about it, and they're watching the link live. Any last comments?
Well, thank you guys for sharing. It was nice to meet you all.
Oh yeah, thank you. You know, and guys. But I wish you success, and hopefully down the road we can maybe reconvene and share again.
Yeah, sounds
And
great.
I also just put a little plug in for two things. One of them is for Sarah. You have a Kickstarter happening right now, right, Sarah?
Oh, I do have a Donors Choose up, yes.
Okay, Donors Choose. Maybe you can share that, and we can send that out and see if we can get a little noise going on about that. And that's, what is the Donors Choose for? To get some?
Oh, for the Magic Mirror project. So just to basically get like LEDs, electroluminescent wire, some soldering equipment, and copper wire and things like that, or copper tape.
And I look forward to getting links about that that you talked about earlier. And I also want to say that there is a virtual version of the Sense Hat, which is one of the reasons I'm kind of interested in it, because sometimes people say we only have 1 or 2 Raspberry Pis, but you can start to code the Sense Hat using a virtual emulator. Sarah, have you done that yet?
Yeah, I've tried it out, and I've seen people use it. Some of my students were using it actually earlier today. But it's great. You know, it'll tell you if your code isn't working. It'll give you the basic rundown of the Sense Hat. So just a great way to interact with it if you don't have a Pi on.
But can you send, with that virtual emulator, can you virtually and then send it to the Raspberry Pi, or do you have to start over?
You know, I don't know. I haven't tried to move the code over to the Pi yet when I've been trying it out.
One of the things I thought about might be even to do some collaborative projects virtually. And I don't know if you can I think you can save it, but if you can send it to another school to add to it or something like that, that might be kind of interesting.
That would be great, yeah. So I'll definitely take a look and sit down with it.
Great. Well, we are just about out of time. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks to the Agency of Education in Vermont for helping organize this. I know they couldn't be here for this particular hangout, and we also have another hangout on Wednesday with Ali Dakers from VidCode, who has a really unique platform for learning to code using your own videos.
Cool. All right, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Susan.
All right, thank you. Bye, Vermont.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.